wake early?
I wake up at 3:30 a.m.
Oh, that's real early.
and cannot sleep.
Wow, 3:30.
So I request my son, please go out early
Oh my gosh.
because I up to you. I wait every day because you. Because I must check everything, turn off the light, everything, open the door for him.
Wow, that's something. Alright. Okay, any questions about any words? Or any question about anything about it?
Mr. Peace,
Yeah,
what is the best experience in your life and why?
the best
The best
experience
in your life, teacher?
in my life
Yes, please.
and why? Yikes.
Maybe I can bring and improve my life.
Right, well, the best experience, yeah, let's see. Gosh. Well, I mean, an experience can be actually a moment in time. And, let's see, I would think my career, let's see. Well, in my career at the FBI, I was a guy that grew up in Philadelphia and Pennsylvania in America for grade school, high school, same city, same neighborhood for 16 years. Then I went to college, but it was only maybe 100 miles from Philadelphia. In other words, maybe on a bus, 2 hours to Scranton, PA. And so in the state of Pennsylvania, which is along the East Coast, Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, I went to college here in Scranton, Pennsylvania. So that was my whole experience till I was 21. Then in America in those days, they had the draft system, the draft, where you had to go in the military service. Had to, unless you had a physical problem that you couldn't serve in the military. You had to go. So when I was in college, I was a member of ROTC. 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 And it was, you were taking training in college to be a reserve officer in the military, so that when you graduated from college, you went into the military. So I went into the Army as a second lieutenant. And I did, I went out to Oklahoma, which is maybe out, if somewhere in this area, to Fort Sill. Maybe 3-hour flight from Pennsylvania, from Philadelphia. So I'm at Fort Sill. There's a war going on now in Vietnam, the Vietnam War. And I was a second lieutenant in a company in Fort Sill. And one day, I was a member of the 17th Ordnance Company. And I was in the 184th Battalion. A battalion is a military unit as well as a company. A company is part of the battalion. So one day, commanding officer of the battalion calls the officers from the other companies, of which there are 4 or 5 along with my company, and says, "We are going to Vietnam." Woo. Oh, except the 17th Ordnance Company, staying in Oklahoma. Good morning. Staying in Fort Sill, not going. The rest of the battalion, into the war. I'm sitting quietly in Fort Sill. And when my time was up, I joined the FBI, became a special agent. And the thing that changed my life was actually something I didn't know was going to do anything. Because when I joined the Bureau and became a special agent, at the end of training, they said, "Oh, now you can pick 3 offices where you would like to serve. All anywhere in the country." But grew up in Philadelphia, college in Scranton, 21 years in the same area, except for the 2 years out here and then back. So I said, "Oh, wow, well, that's great." Number 1, Philadelphia. Number 2, New York. Was New York's only right up here. Same neighborhood in a way. And then I couldn't think of a 3rd office where I wanted to go. Besides New York and Philadelphia, what else was there? There was no other place in the world, as far as I'm concerned, other than Philadelphia and New York. So, just as a joke, more or less, like ha ha ha, Hawaii. So, New York, Philadelphia, New York. Number 3, Hawaii. Hawaii,
You pick Hawaii.
way out here, Honolulu. Very small office. These offices were based, getting there was based on seniority. The longer you served, depending on the office, New York or Philadelphia, let's say, maybe 5 years, Philadelphia. New York, maybe 2 years. A big, big, big office. Hawaii, maybe 15. Very small. It takes a long time to work up the seniority, the time in service to qualify for an office like that, because there are people ahead of you that have been serving. So I joined. I went to first office, Seattle, 1 year. Chicago, 6 months. Then I was told, "Oh, you've got 20 minutes to decide whether you want to go to language school or stay here in Chicago. I said, I don't need 20 minutes. I'm out. I went to language school for a year and then New York. And I looked around. Everybody had been here forever. New York, New York, New York. So there I was in the office on number 2 choice. But things happen. Surprise events occur that you have no control over. The Honolulu office was a very small office. Had 19 agents in the whole state. One day, the wives of the agents wrote a letter to the director of the FBI in Washington, D.C. and said, this is out of control here in Honolulu. There are not enough agents. Our husbands are being overworked to the nth degree. We need help. So, there was a new director had taken over from J. Edgar Hoover, who had been director for 50 years. And the new director took over. So, whatever happened, I don't know. I'm sitting in New York, not bothering anybody. But they got the letter. The director says, expand the Honolulu office now. Woo. So it was January. Winter. So they wanted to take only single agents. And most of the guys on the Hawaii list were married and had children and everything. So they had children, they had homes, etc. Not so easy to move. But a single guy renting an apartment somewhere, you go. So that's what happened. They went down to the bottom of the list to find new agents, and there I was. And one morning, I wasn't bothering anybody, just doing my job. I'm told the assistant director wants to see you right away. Everybody thought, a new guy being called in by the assistant director, that's not going to be happy birthday. No, something's wrong. But it wasn't. I came in, he said, yes, sir. He says, you have been transferred to Honolulu, Hawaii. Well, that changed everything, upside down. I went out to Honolulu, traveled all through the South. I've never been to any of these places before. Guam, American Samoa, Tahiti, Australia, New Zealand, Hong Kong, and all these places. It just kind of whoosh, opened my eyes up to, hey, wait a minute, there's more to the world than just Philadelphia and New York. So boom, I went into this whole big thing. And then, after working out in Honolulu for 8 years, I went back to headquarters and worked there for 4 and was appointed the FBI legal attaché in Hong Kong and covered all of Southeast Asia. So this thing, that a little event of couldn't think of a third office, wrote down Honolulu, changed everything upside down. Who knew the wives were going to write? The wife never wrote anything to the director, but there they did. And it changed my whole life. I never thought that in 3 years in the Bureau I'd be in Honolulu, and that just changed everything. That brought me to Hong Kong, and then when I'm in Hong Kong, Bangkok was part of the territory, so I covered Bangkok with the Royal Thai Police, Singapore, Indonesia, Malaysia, Karachi, Hong Kong, Macau, Philippines, Manila, all those cities, all those places, all through there for years. Did that, then I retired, and I went back and lived in Hong Kong for another 5 years working there. And then I retired from that job too. And then I decided maybe I should teach English as a volunteer in Bangkok. But it all came down to the one little, couldn't think of a third city, so Honolulu. That's where it also, that changed everything. So that was one experience, which was only a little line on a piece of paper. Changed everything. And who knew that in 3 years after I wrote it down, the wives were going to walk in and write a letter and say, hey, this has got to stop. And then they said, oh, send out agents right away. It takes too long for somebody to sell their house and all that. The children are in school. We can't have them taken out of class. So find single guys and send them out. And that's how I got, they went all the way down, there he was, sitting there at the bottom of the list. So that was the experience that changed everything for me. Here I am standing in Bangkok, Thailand. Wouldn't have happened otherwise, I don't think. But that was, if you're looking for an experience, even though it was a brief moment in a way, it changed everything. Who knew that when I wrote it, there was going to be problems in Honolulu? They were only going to look for certain agents to go, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But that's the way it all worked out. You get it? Get the idea? Right.
เข้าใจกี่เปอร์เซ็นต์มั้ง
Okay.
60%
เรา50-60
60
Well, if you understand all that, then you're doing very well with your English.
I asked when you talk how percent understand. He said 60%.
60%. Honolulu. Okay, Hawaii. That tells you right there.
Try to understand.
Well,
คุณมาเล่นที่เชื่อ
okay, good morning. There we go. You can brief.
ให้มาสาย
You can brief this guy after class.
นิยายนะ
นิยายส่วนตัวแก
อ๋อเหรอเดี๋ยวพี่ต้องเล่าให้ฟังแล้วกัน
But in talking about an experience in life that would have an effect more than just a few minutes or a minor effect, that little almost a joking writing of Honolulu on the piece of paper 1, 2, 3 as the third office. I had no idea when I wrote that down that I'd ever be going to a place like that, to Honolulu. So it's just by chance, by a freak situation. Even writing it down doesn't mean that in 3 years the wives of the agents in Honolulu are going to write a letter to the director complaining about the situation. To the point the director says, uh-oh, we got to do something. And that's how they reached down and found me at the bottom of the list, because I was available to go right away, immediately. Not have to wait 3 months, do this, do that.
Many years ago, Thailand had a movie called Hawaii Five-O. It's very funny.
Hawaii 5-0. Well, it's funny you mention that, because when I was in Hawaii, that was a TV show, a television show, Hawaii 5-0.
ที่จำได้ว่าสนุก
The 50th state. Hawaii in America is the 50th state. So they just called the show Hawaii 5-0. It was the police, like the state police of Hawaii, a show about that. And it was a TV show, and right outside the FBI office in Honolulu, you would look across the street, and there would be cameras out, and they'd be filming the show right in downtown Honolulu. So it was like you'd see it all around town. You could tell because there were the cameras and everything, and everything was blocked off so that the actors and actresses could go about what they were doing. Yeah, it was a big popular show for years.
Yes, I like it.
Yeah, everybody did.
I like Blue Hawaii of David Presley
Oh, well,
โอ้
okay,
แล้ว
I
พี่
was pressed.
ชอบมากเลยทุกเพลง
Blue Hawaii
Blue Hawaii, right, that was a big popular movie too. Any other question?
Let me ask last question, teacher, please.
What?
If you can choose the country of birth, which country will you choose except America and Thailand?
Which country would I choose?
If you can choose the country of birth,
A bird.
which country will you choose except Thailand and America?
Except Thailand and America.
Yes, and Hong Kong also. And Hong Kong.
Exactly.
Which country?
That's a pretty tough question. Gosh, I really don't know. It's hard to say. I don't really think I'd be choosing too much other, maybe Canada.
Canada.
Kind of close, I guess.
Like me, teacher. I like Canada.
Yeah, I like Canada too. Hawaii would be good, even though that's part of the United States. Yeah, I would say Canada, maybe
Canada.
Vancouver or some city out west. I think I would have preferred out west than back east, but that's the way it is.
Thank you, teacher.
Any other questions? You asked a question, or you asked a question yesterday about disturb and bully.
Disturb, befriend, bully, BULLY.
Bully. Disturb, and what was the other words?
Befriend, REF นะ
Befriend,
เดี๋ยวติ๊กไว้ในโน้ต Befriend, REFRAIN.
oh, refrain.
Befriend.
Where'd you come up with refrain? Refrain. A-I-N, refrain? And what was the other one? Bully, right? Disturb. What is disturb?
Interrupt.
Bully.
Bother.
Right. Disturb is to interrupt something. You could be sitting in a chair at home or someplace reading the newspaper, and somebody comes in and says, "Oh, sorry to disturb you, but there's a telephone call for you," or something like that. Oh, disturb? Well, you really didn't disturb, you just said, but that's a common expression. Sorry to disturb you, but we need you to move your seat from here to there or something like that. We have to clean this area. Disturb, it can be many, many different degrees of being disturbed. You can disturb people by sitting in a movie theater with your phone on and lights and tapping noises or something like that while people are watching the movie. That is disturbing other people in the theater. They can't pay attention to the movie because you're flashing the light around and doing this and that and the other thing. So that's why they always ask you to turn off your devices when you're at the theater. Because you can disturb other people. To interrupt, to bother to a degree. Please don't disturb me. I have to take care of this matter right now. I'll be with you in a few minutes. Please don't disturb me right now. I got to take care of it. In other words, don't interrupt me at the moment. I have to take care of this. Disturb. Very disturbing. You can have, of course, degrees of being disturbed. It can get a little bit, and then it can get a lot more disturbing type of thing. Refrain. What is refrain? basically to stop doing something. Please refrain from talking during class. Hold back. Refrain. Wait till the class is over, then go outside and talk. But refrain from smoking in the classroom, or refrain from smoking in the theater. That type of thing. Good morning. So refrain is to hold back on doing something. Refrain. Refrain from smoking. Refrain from speaking in the class. Wait till it's over. Refrain. And this is a word that comes up a lot in schools. Bully. Bully. What is bully?
hate speech, hate speech.
Hate speech? Not exactly. Well, I mean, to a degree, but well, all right. To bully is to intimidate or cause fear to be in someone by treating them mean, rough, or, in a very negative way. To threaten them, usually people that are weaker than you, younger than you, maybe they have a physical problem or something like that they are not a physical threat to you, but you are a physical threat to them. And you see it a lot in schools where students a year or two older or physically bigger than, let's say, other students can intimidate or cause fear in other students by telling them you better do this or you're going to really get a kick in the head, big time. And causing students to live in fear in the classroom because they're afraid that if they do something to upset you, you'll, boom, knock them on the head or something like that. So a bully, somebody that pushes other people around, usually because they're smaller, physically smaller, not a threat to the bully, but the bully is big enough to scare them into doing certain things. You can bully people by your position in a corporation. If you're the president, you can start to bully other workers, but you either do it or you're out of here. Stuff like that. You're fired. Ooh, okay, boss. Try to bully me into doing something that I didn't want to do, but he threatened me if I didn't do it, he was going to fire me, so I better do it. Bully.
If someone take a picture, I don't know what will you say.
Good morning, teacher.
Oh, good morning.
Don't
Mr. Singh will be along any
Don't
minute.
defend me or don't disturb me. How we use the sentence, if someone like to take a picture in this room, but I don't know, stop, don't disturb me, or don't bully me, or don't befriend me.
Well, don't disturb me. I'm studying my language. Please wait till I'm done class, and then we can talk about taking pictures. But just don't walk in and start taking pictures and disturbing what I'm about to do, what I'm doing. So you could tell them you're disturbing me by doing all this when I'm trying to concentrate on my classwork.
So my son is wrong. I asked my son, you tell her, don't bully me, it's my personality right.
Don't spoil me? Spoil.
Don't bully me.
Bully me. Well, you can bully your own children too, by intimidating them, scaring them into doing different things. But most of the time, a bully would be someone in a school environment, work environment, that for whatever reason is able to control and intimidate another person, scare another person into doing something that they wouldn't necessarily do. Well, yeah, bully. Usually you hear about it in schools, in